You still have distributors today ordering by fax, which is, um, you know, it's just an example of the state of how business is on the industrial and industrial distribution side. So it needs to catch up with the rest of the world. And I think that would make a massive difference.
The Industrial Sage Executive Series, sharing the stories behind game-changing executives, their organizations, and insights into today's industry challenges.
Well, hello and welcome to today's Executive Series on Industrial Sage. I am joined by John Joyce, who is the Global Marketing Director at Brennan Industries. John, thank you so much for joining me today on the Executive Series.
Glad to be here, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Well, John, I'm excited to have you again for the second time because we spoke, gosh, I can't remember when now. It's been a minute. It was a while ago. It was before this crazy thing called COVID happened. So I imagine if things have changed. We talked a lot about marketing last time, a lot of, some tactics and different things that you guys were doing. And that was pretty cool. So, but today, before we kind of get into today's topic and discussion, for those who aren't familiar with Brennan, if you could just give me a little high level on who you guys are and what you do.
Sure. Brennan Industries is a manufacturer of hydraulic components, specifically hydraulic fittings and adapters, but also some accessory components. And we are a multinational company, so we manufacture those things in the US, in Canada, in the UK, and in Asia, and have a worldwide distribution network as well.
That's great. So, since we last spoke, which is, it's been a minute, how have things changed over there for you guys?
So I think the same way things have changed for a lot of businesses is an increasing reliance on remote technologies that enable remote management and leadership, and also other technologies that enable remote sales, and kind of a shift away from a traditional sales model, which is still super popular in the world of manufacturing. It's kind of like an old school industrial world, shifting away from that model towards a more social selling and marketing heavy. Marketing's doing more lifting, I think, than it used to do in the past because of the inability of people to meet as easily and freely as they used to in the past.
Yeah, so it's definitely made things, quite a bit of a challenge. So obviously, there's been a lot of changes. You mentioned, trying to reach customer obviously is a kind of a big one. How has it really altered your future? I mean, some of these things are maybe you could say a blip on the radar, temporary. But what do you think of those things that will remain permanent?
Well, I think actually a lot of the changes that have happened aren't going to roll back. I don't think things are going to roll back to the way they were before on most of the levels. We talked about the increasing reliance on marketing. That was one of the change, and moving away from the face-to-face sales. I think that's going to continue. I also think the importance of data and the immediate access to data through systems, kind of like e-commerce, but streamlining that whole concept to direct connect, direct sharing of data has just gotten more and more important because it's eliminating the human element, which we've been on a trajectory for that for forever, from really switching from face-to-face business to the telephone, to the fax, to the email, to e-commerce. But COVID just pushed it, all the way to the edge of almost touchless as much as possible. And I don't think that's going to go back. I think because we were going that way already, and not only in commerce then, but then you also have that in leadership and management and building and training and managing your team has also been shoved entirely over into the virtual space. So we've spent a lot of time developing training materials, building infrastructure for remote leadership, and remote team management. And all of those things have improved the company. So I don't see them just like vanishing. I think all those changes are permanent. There's been another topic is logistics. Logistics has been a nightmare since COVID, and hopefully some of that will change, because it's actually just been the pricing and the availability of things and the ability to move things around, it's been sort of horrible. And there's been a lot of scrambling in that area. But again, having a multinational footprint, having the ability to manufacture your parts in multiple geographies and move them around gives you a lot of opportunities for moving them around differently. That's even helped through the logistical challenges. So I think all those challenges are going to stick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or those improvements.
Yeah. Well, certainly. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of with the cons come the pros. I'm curious beforehand. How much was Brennan fairly virtual, or what did the makeup look like?
No, not very virtual. So the marketing department's actually sales and marketing are one of the most virtual, right? A lot of the sales guys are already scattered all over the place, mm-hmm. and they report, virtually. And then the marketing team, just due to the nature of marketing and the people who do it, you tend to get a lot of people who've worked as freelancers or are used to that kind of, having equipment and set up at home and remote work. And it actually works well for remote because everything's digital, all the assets. So our team became more remote during this time. But Brennan as a whole, I think, hasn't been very remote at all. And that has been a kind of a cultural challenge for Brennan, let's just say.
Yeah.
And, we've embraced it, but it's also not been super easy.
Well, yeah, and that seems to be kind of a similar and familiar story with a lot of manufacturers. I mean, it is a cultural challenge. It's a mind shift, paradigm shift, really. But then you also have a whole other element. If you're a manufacturer and you are manufacturing things, there's obviously elements that are just you can't do virtually.
Right.
But there's hybrids, and there's ways of being able to make that happen. So I know that's been difficult. What about trade shows and things like that? Was that something that that Brennan took? Did you guys do those before a lot, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So in 2019, I think we did 19 or 20 shows.
Okay. Yeah.
Some of them huge, and some of them quite small. But in the last couple of years, we've done next to zero. I think just this year we've done a couple. But even then, there's kind of been a lot of resistance in wanting to do the shows, which has been interesting. The people holding the shows really want to get the shows geared back up, but there is a bit of a resistance of we're not so sure we want to do that, or anybody's going to come, or if the performance of the show is half of what it normally is it going to be worth it? But we have experimented and done 3 or 4. I think there's 4 on the schedule for this year, but I think it's still questionable whether those shows are worth it yet. Again, because of everybody's in the same boat. So the nice thing is everybody is going through this, if that's nice. Yeah. It's not like we're the only ones going through these challenges, right? So your competitors are going through them, your customers are going through it. So we're all kind of in this together. And I think we've all stepped back and said, okay, how necessary is some of this stuff? And it gives you the opportunity to rethink things that maybe you've been doing them every year for years, or every 2 years, mm-hmm. for forever. And you're do we really need to keep doing that? Or is this really providing value? So I think that's a plus side to the challenges again.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So if I heard you correctly, I know you said you have some on the schedule, but have you already attended some so far? And yeah. How have those been? I'm curious. I've been hearing different things.
Yeah, the general reaction has been underwhelming, right? So people come back. I mean, I've heard extremely underwhelming things like like that was horrible,
Mm.
to, just wasn't the greatest. Um, we have one that's still coming up this year, the last one for this year, and I'm hoping that that proves to be a little better, because the first ones were earlier in the year. As things have progressed this year, I think it's confusing because there's is it getting better? Is it not getting better? Is it getting better?
Right.
So I'm hoping it is getting better, and that this show coming up in a few weeks will be good. But so far, they've been pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see what happens with that. From what we've heard, very similar experiences is that just the attendance they just thought was going to be a lot higher than it actually was, and I'm sure there's several different reasons for that. Certainly, if they're international shows versus more domestic, there's a lot at play. Certainly going forward in the fall, as right now is all the whole variant stuff in the U.S. anyways is kind of going nuts. I'm really curious about some of these big ones that are going to be rolling up here in the next 4 to 6 weeks. What's going to happen, if they will keep going, if they won't. Certainly, the attendance has got to be hampered, but who knows? It's kind of anyone's guess. I kind of hope personally that we're going to get back, better, and hopefully, that we could take that equation or that variable off the table, and then we'll see kind of what's left at that. You may have companies that say, you know what, we're out of this game, or what. So that I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there. I think it's kind of anyone's guess, but
Yeah, speaking frankly, I've always had a sort of a skeptical view towards most of the events, especially the bigger ones that cost, $1 million basically to participate at the scale that we need to participate. And it's like, are these really worth it? Are they really producing, or is there some better way to do it? And I do think, not having them hasn't, I don't feel like it's been like a major blow, like, oh, wow, we missed, 20 shows times 2 years. We missed 40 shows. And wow, you could really feel that. It honestly, it hasn't been that, right? It has been pretty fine. So it just seems like, right now, last month was one of our best months we've ever had. I think it might have been the best month we've ever had. So it's kind of like business is cranking. And so just as a marketing guy, just really am questioning the ROI on these things. And I think the break in the tradition of going to them is actually good, because it can, like I said before, it can make you really give you an opportunity to rethink, do we need to pick this back up? We quit doing it. Let's just leave it where it was, like a bad habit. We'll just walk away from it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I said, we'll see what happens. So sort of on that, as we're prognosticating a little bit future. The future of your industry. What does that look like for you?
Future of our industry. So we're facing some challenges, that's for sure, with the progress of technology and electrification of equipment. So, and hydraulics is kind of, it's not new technology. Let's just say that.
Sure.
And there's a push towards, anything new and shiny. So you see the kind of threat of electrification, and you start seeing that more and more. But what's been interesting, at least so far, to see play out is the combination of electrification with hydraulics still, because of the inability of electrification to truly replace hydraulics in every application. Just due to each method has its own limitations, so you're starting to see, kind of digital pumps and things like that, instead of like actuators replacing hydraulic components. You just see kind of more like a digitization of hydraulic components to give them some element of the control of electronics and things like that. So that's kind of I think a direction that the industry is going, which I think is interesting. Seems scarier than I think it's going to be because of the way the innovation has been changing, and still people are embracing hydraulics just because of the ability of it to cheaply and easily do transfer power in a way that other modes of transferring power just can't do. So, and then for us as a company, I think the aerospace market is always an interesting market. You see tons of publicity recently with various billionaires blasting themselves off into space.
Yeah.
But that market is more and more it's a growing market. Aerospace is a huge market. So of course it's a growing market, but you see, even space travel and everything related to that becoming more like accessible to businesses. I mean, that was just a thing of governments, and now you have private businesses figuring out ways to do things like that. And some of those businesses are our customers. So that's exciting to see. And, we say, more power to that whole industry and everything they're trying to do, because hydraulics is playing a role in it. And so we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's definitely super cool, especially about aerospace. And, you're seeing all the privatization of that whole, space exploration. I mean, that's obviously super exciting. So, one thing I'd ask then, if you had I gave you a magic wand, okay, and I said, hey, there's any challenge that you see that you could solve right now, what would it be? Besides COVID. Sorry.
Yeah. For me personally, it would be technical integration, seamless integration. So one of the things we're really trying to push for, and what I mean is like integration of business systems for the purpose of real-time data and real-time commerce, just fully integrated through the whole chain of distribution. And I think there's massive potential for that to solve a lot of bottlenecks and a lot of problems. And it's not a new thing. It's been going on, but like it just needs to really come into its fullness, which it has not. It's so spotty and done in half measures, let's say. So I think that is something that I would like to see happen, especially at Brennan. And I've actually been pushing on this pretty hard, but in all industry, just to streamline all of the business that happens between industrial manufacturers and their distributors, to speed up that process. You still have distributors today ordering by fax, which is, it's just an example of the state of how business is on the industrial distribution side. So it needs to catch up with the rest of the world. And I think that would make a massive difference if industrial business was kind of happening at the scale or at the speed of a business like a huge retail operation would, like a Walmart or something like that. And we're getting there, we're getting there. And we're trying on our side, Brennan is pushing to adopt and develop. We developed our own technologies in that regard to, I guess, bridge the gap between our distribution network, which is huge. We have over 6,000 distributors, maybe 7,000 by now, and bridge that gap technologically between them and us to make that relationship seamless and almost to remove us out of the middle of the relationship. Because in my opinion, that is the ultimate customer experience, would be that it's all about the customer. You're literally like inside their head. Their data is inside your head, so that they don't even really need you, more or less, except, you're hoping, in my personal opinion, the end result would be we're basically invisible. Everything is just happening smoothly and seamlessly and automatically, and they never have to think about us. And I think we need to get to that point. That would be my magic wand, let's make that happen.
That's a great answer. That's a great magic wand answer right there. Yeah, the customer experience, and it's interesting. You're mentioning retail. A lot of this is driven, I think, from our consumer behavior, our expectations. I mean, you and I go onto Amazon or whatever. You can go buy something online and get it sometimes in an hour, right? Or faster. I mean, your food, your products, your groceries, whatever, that's all where that's going. So then that's, sort of being pushed into, well, on the B2B side, well, wait a minute, why couldn't we do that? I mean, I know, it's a little different. It was interesting. There was one of the companies that we talked, this was probably 2-3 years ago. And I mean, they had pushed into e-com, and you could go buy, stainless steel tanks for them for $20,000 on, online. And, it's interesting. B2B purchases obviously are very different in nature. But still, you mentioned, like, from an ordering standpoint, like, okay, fine. It's still very technical, and you got to go through all kinds of stuff. But, certainly if you've got a distribution network and there's going to be some similarities. All right, boop, let's hit a button. So it's coming. It's going to take some time. It's also interesting too. You're mentioning fax. Real estate. I remember several years ago. It wasn't that long ago, I guess, but I was still blown away that, like, fax, really, like, you guys have to. Okay, all right, but you know what? It's not the only industry that is that.
Yeah.
So
it definitely gives everything an old school flair, right?
Yeah.
The fax machine coming in the corner.
Yeah, well, it's things are changing. They're coming. So, sort of my last question before we wrap up is, what do you do, or what are you doing to sort of stay at the top of your game, to continue to learn and just sort of sharpen your tool set? What are you doing?
That's a great question, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to share knowledge with other people in the marketing world and in the remote working world, both socially, like social media, putting content out on social media, and also just like sharing best practices amongst peers, let's say, sharing practices amongst peers to learn from each other, and also public speaking. So I've been trying to do more and more speaking and get out there more and talk about these things, just like I'm doing right now, but also virtually in front of other groups or in person as that is possible. And, just really help people to grow from the 30 years of experience that I have, but also in that process, you learn a lot yourself, both from trying to help other people grow and the input of others around you who are doing the same thing or have their questions or their experiences, and really just trying to give back, I guess, in some way actively is a huge way that I've found to try to advance myself, but also the whole industry and other people. So I'm really trying to focus quite a decent amount of effort onto doing that kind of thing. And it's also very enjoyable. So I love doing it.
That's awesome. No, that's a great answer. I love that. Giving back, but then you also, I'm doing some of the similar stuff, and there's a tremendous amount that you learn, from other people. And I love that. It's fantastic. It's like sort of like this, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's, you put in, you get out, So.
Yeah, I think COVID, has locked us up in little boxes to some degree. And, you have to get back out of that. And even when you're free, so to say, it can be like after being penned up for a long time, there's actually kind of like a stretching, like you have to stretch, and kind of like get your muscles going back into, no, I need to be out there. And I think just pushing yourself, or at least for me, pushing myself to be out there, to engage with people, even if it's digitally, but everybody is so much better and more ready for that now. engaging with people, engaging in the discussion, bringing ideas, sharing them, getting input. And that is a very awesome growth process for everybody, really.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's funny. You kind of reminded me of a story. A buddy of mine told me just a couple of weeks ago, and he was kind of like a road warrior, always, traveling, going somewhere, conferences, networking, this all over the place. And he told me, well, I went to my first conference or whatever, like 2 weeks ago, and he was like, I came back and I was like, oh man, I'm okay with I'm okay with doing this like 2 times a year now. Like, I don't want to do this like all the time.
He's out of shape, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. It's like winded. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. So I get it. So, well, cool. Well, John, I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us here on the executive series. I'm just learning a little bit more about you and about Brennan, and just sharing ideas and thoughts on where we think this crazy world is going relative to industry. And I've loved it. So for those who'd like to learn more about you guys, it's BrennanInc.com. Is that correct?
That's right, BrennanInc.com. You could also search me on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow or connect on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Yeah, and so that's where you're posting most of your social content?
Mm-hmm. All
right, cool. Well, we'll come follow you there. Follow John. So, well, again, thank you so much for your time, and we'll do this again. This won't be the last time.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. I always love talking to you, Dean. So thanks.
Yeah, anytime. All right, and that wraps up today's Industrial Sage Executive Series with John Joyce. He is the Global Marketing Director at Brennan Industries. If you want to learn more about them, you can go to BrennanInc.com, or you can check out John. He puts out a lot of content on LinkedIn. You can go follow him, check out his stuff, share, comment, all that good stuff. Hey, speaking of content and consuming it, if you are not on our email list, you need to go and get on the list now. I highly recommend. Why? Because we've got great content like this and others that are coming out on a weekly basis, so you can continue to sort of sharpen your tools and learn from other leaders and executives about what they're doing in their industries and how you can be a better leader in yours. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching or listening. I'm Danny Gonzalez. I'll be back next week with another episode on Industrial Sage for the Executive Series.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Get notified every time there's a new episode by signing up for our email newsletters. You can also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review so more industrial professionals can find us. Want us to tell your story? Go to industrialsage.com. This week's episode was produced by Rika Wiersma, filmed and edited by Optimum Productions, and our executive producer is Danny Gonzalez. Thank you for watching Industrial Sage.